Hi, everyone. This is another episode of the Pedal Podcast, and I'm a bit of a fanboy now because I've got the guys from the Pedal Pod, Hugo and Gonz, with me. And we were just obviously trying to chat away a little bit before we started recording. And I was telling the guys that first of all, props for literally giving the best content about pedal and about Premier Pedal, all like what you can find apart from the Spanish speaking stuff, which I don't have a clue about. And we will talk about it. Which language are you speaking between you? Because you're obviously bilingual. I'm bilingual, but with the Hungarian language, I cannot really do much. So welcome, guys. It's a pleasure to have you. We were trying to get this one together for a few weeks now. I was also quite cheeky because I said that I would really like to feature on your podcast as well, but it will be quite tough because you guys know your stuff. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks. Obviously, great to be here, Dennis. Thanks so much for the invitation. We've obviously been quite busy over the last few weeks trying to grow our own product, the Paddle Pod, as you very well mentioned. But yeah, just a pleasure to be here. It's kind of our first major guest appearance, so we're probably a little bit nervous, but very excited to feature.
Yeah, Dennis, appreciate the invitation, and it's great to be here as well, and very much looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, and you guys said that as well, and I because you played some paddle just like an hour ago, and I came off a paddle court as well with another Gonzalo Lorenzo from the Paddle Drive, and he absolutely unnerved me. He's a great player. I don't know if you follow him. He's a great guy, great coach. Luckily you don't have I mean, as I said, you guys are bilingual, so I'm always really happy to listen to you guys because he has the thickest Madrid accent there is, and it's just so much fun to actually talk to you guys about paddle. And yeah, it's as I said, it's just great. And I know that you're obviously trying to get a lot better at paddle as well in terms of playability, because your knowledge is second to none. But first question first, which I wanted to ask, obviously, you're just how to do it, but I will try to be the moderator as well. So first of all, how did you guys get into paddle? And I will start with Gons this time.
Yeah, so because we're kind of both Spanish, we've been born and raised in Spain. Feel very lucky to have been born and raised in Spain. It's a great country. And paddle's kind of always been there for us. Like, if I'm honest, we've next to so the house that I grew up, I like 2 minute walk. I literally have like a 20 court paddle club. Like, it's insane. And I'm not saying that I was there all day since like, day one or anything like that, but we kind of always played socially in and around. I think Hugo and I are also massive like sports junkies. Like, we played a lot of football growing up and a lot of tennis as well. But I guess sort of in the teens is when we started to get more into paddle. And then as we grew into our 20s, paddle started becoming more popular in Spain. And we also started playing a lot more paddle as well. And if I'm not mistaken, Hugo is actually, though, the one that really sort of like took it to kind of the next level, and especially started watching a lot of professional paddle. And I remember he was talking to me about like, oh, Paquito Navarro and like Lebron, like how amazing they are. And I wasn't like really kind of buying into it. But then I sort of started watching as well. And then just like, I mean, really got hooked. So this is like, I guess, pre-COVID. And then kind of from then on, we basically started talking about paddle like every single day and playing basically as well.
Yeah, I mean,
infectious. It really is infectious. Sorry, you go.
No, all I was going to say is, Gonz, you perfectly summarize it, to be honest. But I'd say kind of when we were young, between whatever it is, 10 and 15, we started playing a little bit of paddle because obviously having grown up in Madrid, friends of friends had paddle courts in their kind of where they lived, either not in their homes really, but kind of in their urbanizaciones, right? They're kind of where they lived, the suburbs, exactly. And but I didn't really follow paddle at that age. I only just played it very sporadically, 5-6 times a year maybe, and obviously didn't play very well. But I think it was after uni when we both studied in the UK in Exeter, and then we started working in London. And it was towards the end of when I was living in London, so between, I'd say 2019 is probably kind of my first memory of starting to watch paddle, which is when Lebron and Paquito teamed up and they became the number one seeded pair in the world. So I think that's basically when it kicked off. And from then on until today.
I think it's pretty interesting you say that, because what I was thinking that, like, sort of early 2000s to like late 2010s sort of thing, like early 2010s, it was Argentinian, like the Argentinians were like dominating the sport. So I think, as you guys are Spanish, like I guess you're British Spanish, it's hard for me to know what you are. So you can just, like, basically clear the air out on that one. But I just sort of feel like, that obviously helped, you know, obviously padel was massive in Spain, and it has been the biggest sport after football, and we all know how many courts there are, and obviously a lot more, like 10 times more than like in Argentina and whatnot. But I think it might have, like when you said Paquito and LeBron, they were the first Spanish world number one. So I think that sort of helped to grow the sport to the absolute hype. What is now? I say absolute hype, but in Spain, I think it's still really niche for us. But I think in Spain, that like took it up a notch. I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I do, however, given that obviously we're a bit of well, kind of paddle geeks, and I personally watch all sorts of random paddle matches. I've been actually recently telling Gonz that I was watching a random final of like the 2013 Pro Paddle Tour final in Granada, watching like Nerone and Sanyo play against Juan Martín and Vela. And the stadium, or well, the court had a massive audience. So even back then, before Paquito and LeBron really taking it to the next level, it had quite a lot of followers in Spain. So yeah, I think it's been a big sport in Spain since I'd say the early 2000s, because basically what happened, if I'm not mistaken, is that towards the end of the 1990s, previously it had been a professional sport in Argentina and it had grown loads, but it suddenly it was deprofessionalized. And so all the top players from Argentina had to move over to Spain, and that's when it became a big thing over here. So that's probably the main reason why it happened.
Yeah, I think it is definitely something which a lot of other countries, and it was funny you mentioned Exeter, because that's obviously my neck of the woods as well, because I live in Bristol, and so it would have been quite funny to. I mean, it must have been pretty tough for you guys that you obviously grew up with the love of paddle, and then you come to the UK, and then you study here, and there's no courts. And I know to this day as well that there's no courts in Exeter. There's a few courts in Devon, there's a few courts in Cornwall, but there's no courts in Exeter as of yet. Obviously, there's going to be more, and now Bristol is the hub, and people from Exeter actually do travel up to Bristol, because what can you do? But how did you guys deal with that when you were here? You just like put it away, and you just sort of felt like, yeah, okay, it's not really gonna happen for now, and you picked up tennis, or how was that?
Yeah, I think we essentially put our focus on other sports. And I think at university, it was mainly football. But it's definitely a shame, because I think if we would have had a paddle court nearby, Hugo and I would have been there all day, basically. And I think especially in uni, when you've got such a flexible schedule, I don't know if we would have been in class a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, I also just think that it was uni for us was between 2015 and 2018. And it was probably just before we'd really A, started watching paddle properly, and B, started playing paddle properly, because I only really started playing paddle properly towards, well, when I started living in London after university, and same for Gonz. So it was just before then. So our main sport, as Gonz very well indicated, was football, with tennis kind of as a secondary sport. So I think that's the reason why we were able to survive. Otherwise, we would have had a real problem.
Yeah, 100%. And I do want to get obviously, behind the Padel Pod, and how you guys came up with the idea. And obviously now I get it that, it was mostly Hugo who just like sort of convinced Gonz that, what, let's just record it because it's fun. And, it was different for me, because I was doing a tennis podcast before, and then I started to love the sport, and I was like, okay, so this is fun, but like it would be a lot more fun to do something niche. And I'm pretty sure that, like, I wanted to do your format as well, like a weekly sort of thing to talk about what's happening, because that's what I've been doing in tennis. And every tournament, then we predicted. It just makes it a lot harder, because in tennis, you know, obviously now Alcaraz is doing amazingly well, and I'm a massive Nadal and Alcaraz fan. So I love Spain. Spain is, you know, I absolutely love it, and I spent so many summers in Marbella and around in Calahonda and all those places. I don't speak Spanish, which is a bit of a shame with paddle and my lack of Spanish knowledge about the sport, because it is getting international, and that would be my second sort of real question. Um, doesn't actually it annoy you a little bit that you were there before it became this sort of international phenomenon over the last 2 years, or it actually sort of makes you want to push it a little bit more? And I will aim this again with Gonz, to Gonz first of all.
Yeah, I think actually I'd say that I'm very happy that a lot of people have started to like paddle. I don't think I'm annoyed at all. It also allows Hugh and I to essentially have our pod and people listen to us, which I think is, you know, it's a lot of fun and it's great. And I think for me in general, the more people that love paddle and play paddle and kind of want to watch paddle, the better. And I actually think that a funny thing is happening in paddle compared to other sports. And this is kind of like a theory. I haven't really seen it around, but it's kind of like a big belief of mine, which is normally you get hooked through a sport through like the professionals, and then you start playing yourself. And I feel like with paddle is actually different. I feel like people are actually starting to play paddle, but they don't really know about like the whole competition side of it, the professional side of things. But I think slowly they will start to get more into the professional side of things. And yeah, I think it's only good essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have put it better. I don't know whether you want to jump in, Dennis.
No, not really on that one. I just find it really interesting. And sorry, guys, it's a bit of a weird format, so that's why we're gonna be. I should be moderating better. That's on me, but
Not at
I'm gonna
all.
get there by the end. So, you know, after like two and a half hours, we will get there. So no, jokes aside, I think it is a really good point. And I like it, Gonz, that like for me it was different. I started watching paddle because it was on BT Sport. And I always talk about it, that before paddle became a thing in the UK, it was on BT Sport. And now it became one of, you know, I would say a top 10 sport. It's getting there. It's getting around there. You know, we are talking about the UK, where there's like weird sports like cricket and like netball. Like, you know, these, but I don't want to be too controversial. I just feel like, you know, I'm coming from a country where water polo is massive, where, you know, all these weird sports, you can name it and we have it. And, you know, we're amazing in like weightlifting, and no, not anymore, but we used to be. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's a traditional sport like water polo is as well, but no one really knows, like handball. I love handball. You guys love handball. I'm pretty sure of it because it's a Spanish in Spain. It's a massive thing. Who knows in the UK what handball is? It's like, is it some sort of American football? No, it's not, mate. But don't worry about it. So I think it's great that like on my example, I started watching, and that's sort of 2021, I think, was the first time I started watching, and that was the peak of LeBron Galan, right? Like there was no other team.
Yeah.
Like you spoken about it in today's episode as well, which I obviously listened to, and I just gave you the props. So I'm not gonna say it again. But I think it was like it's look, LeBron is a really controversial figure. We all know it. We all talk about it. I love him. My first racket, which was the first proper racket, was actually a Technical Viper. So a LeBron one. So, you know, for me, it was like, so, and I'm a Babolat guy. I've been, you know, my favorite tennis player was Andy Roddick, old time. I hope you guys are listening to the serve, by the way. I always talk about it. I don't get any commission. I wish I wish I did. But Andy Roddick, that like I picked up a pure drive because of Carlos Moya. Then I discovered Andy Roddick. Then obviously Nadal. So, you know, it was sort of a natural selection that I picked up a Babolat racket in the first place. And then LeBron came along, and I still support LeBron, but it's kind of hard to support him, if you know what I mean. He's amazing, but like at the end of the day, like he's just like this. And I do hope, and I want to talk to you guys about the new pairs, because I think it's one of the most interesting one. I wanted to get Pablo Garcia on Al Quattro set, but he's just like crazy busy, so I couldn't get him on to talk about the new pairs. So I just did this really weird episode when I'm just like blabbing by myself. But yeah, you guys summarized it really well. So yeah, let's before I get on actually that one. Have you guys seen, because that's like today's news, that Silingo is now the new coach of LeBron and the Nano?
Yeah, I mean, Gonz literally just sent me a message when I was on my way home. I'd parked the car after the paddle match, the paddle session that we just had, and Gonz was like, "I can't believe it. Silingo's the coach." Personally, just to give a quick opinion, I don't know what's gone through their minds, because he has absolutely no experience coaching, if I'm not mistaken. The final years of his career haven't been very successful, to be honest. I know he won the senior world paddle championships with Argentina.
I'll talk about that in a second.
Exactly. But I just think the LeBron Nino partnership is already very risky in terms of LeBron going back to the backhand after so many years, and his smash isn't what it used to be. I think they just need like a standard, one of the top coaches who knows what he's doing. He's been in the game for a long time to try and help them, because it almost feels like too chaotic. LeBron on the other side of the court, a coach that's never coached before. I don't know. I don't have a great feeling about it.
So what I wanted to say about the senior world champs, I was there, and I've seen Silingo play. I played, but I wouldn't really talk about it. But yeah, I competed as part of the 30 over 35s Hungarian team, and yeah, we didn't win many games. That's all I can say about it.
Still pretty epic.
Look, I was on the same court as, Agustin Silingo, so I'll take that.
There you go.
Yeah, I won't mind. I won't mind. But we've seen an epic where they played against the Danish pair, and he was absolutely unbelievable paddle. So like, proper A plus. And I congratulated him, and I said that he was really inspirational and he was lovely. I don't think he speaks much English, to be fair. So it was kind of funny, because I sent him a message this long, and he just came back and thank you. This was one of my dreams, to actually win the senior world champs. It had a meaning. So it's kind of weird, because obviously Delphi Brau's father was there as well in the team, and Bebe Aguste was there as well, who was on my pod before, and we know like Bebe is doing an unbelievable job, and I give him props almost every time I talk about it on the podcast, because he's doing a really good job with Mahor Set, and now he's part of the IMG group, and it's just great to see. But yes, but don't you guys feel that like LeBron started to play a bit better in the last few weeks?
Gonz, do you maybe want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is true that he started playing a bit better. Now, is that due to the fact that it was almost, I mean, he already had called it quits with Paquito, and it was just kind of like, I guess the pressure was off. I feel like since the beginning, since they joined forces, there was a lot of pressure on the pair. And I think as well, there was a lot of pressure on LeBron, because he split from Galan, and in the manner in which he did, it obviously wasn't like a amicable split. Mm-hmm. And I think in his mind, I mean, LeBron's got let's face it, he's got quite a bit ego, but part of it is what's made him, number one in the world. But there's also like the downside to it, which is potentially having the pressure of people thinking, who was better, LeBron or Galan? Who made the pair? Who made them the number one? So I think there was a lot of factors into the whole LeBron Paquito partnership, and potentially once they announced that was it, that was the end of it, that maybe pressure kind of fell off, and he was then able to play again a bit more freely. But when we look at the actual stats, like hasn't been that well, like that good, especially when you look at the smashing, which Hugo mentioned, Actually, Pablo Garcia just did a recent episode where he talked about the best smashers, and this data is by Padel Intelligence. But if I'm not mistaken, he mentioned that LeBron's smashing efficiency was 48%, which is the worst among the top 10 players. And he's actually one of the players that smashes the most amount. So that's not a good, it's not a good balance. It's not a winning formula. So if you take that into account, and then the fact that he's moving to the left, so he's going to be the one that has to win the games, generate the winners. I'm just not sure he's kind of ready for it at the moment. I mean, technically, he's one of the best players, and on his day, he's unbelievable. But there's, as Hugo mentioned, there's a lot of unknowns, and now you throw in a kind of new coach that hasn't really. I mean, he's obviously a legend of the game, but he, from a coaching perspective, it's kind of his first big real test. I don't know. For me, it's a bit too risky, all of it. There's just a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, I think that might sort of, yeah, it's sort of a make or break. But I feel like at the moment with the Super Pibes, and you guys talk about it, and I talked about it many times as well, that like it's a hard break, because I absolutely love Stupa. I think Stupa is one of the nicest guys. Like he's quite laid back, but in the meantime, you can just see that he's a genuine guy as well. So like he's with his dyed hair, with his earring, and all those little things, and he's a genuinely nice guy, and I think everyone thought that it's gonna be a straightforward LeBron Stupa, and then but like LeBron literally thought, guys, just damn all of you, I'm just gonna do something which no one expects. But you guys talked about it. I don't know if that was actually sort of figured out since then. Was it the Nano who picked up the phone to LeBron, or the other way around, or we just don't know?
I still don't think it's been made clear. I haven't read it anywhere that's confirmed it. So I'm really intrigued to know. Either way, I think it's a ballsy move. Pardon me, but yeah, I mean, just two final points on that subject. I think what's really letting LeBron down is his head. I think that his decision making is what's letting him down, particularly in the key moments during the key games. I think he's going for a smash when he actually has to play a bit of a safer shot. Maybe he has to go for a riskier shot and plays a lob that lands a bit short. I think that's what's letting him down, probably due to confidence, and it's totally normal. After having split with his long-term partner and seeing Galan do so well with Chingotto, it's normal. So it's not that I don't think anyone's lost faith in him. He's one of the most talented players to have ever played paddle, but it is a risky move to go back to the backhand when you're not in your best moment. However, I think that given what you just mentioned, given that Estupa and Paquito aren't partnering, it means that LeBron and Dineno will be the third seeds for the foreseeable future. It's very hard for them to lose that position between now and the end of the season, which I think takes a lot of pressure off. So I think that's going to play in their favor.
It was quite interesting. I spoke to Gonzalo today about it, and he said that he thinks that it will actually work better than with Paquito, because what it is that Paquito really likes to stand back and just let the ball bounce, and just like do his Paquito, like the sort of everything is so just like he doesn't care. Like I've been watching paddle for 3 years. Paquito never seemed to care that much. He cares, don't get me wrong, but he's just like the coolest customer there is, and he plays his guitar and he loses his mind, and lovely chap. I wanted to get him on the pod as well. One of the other guys who I obviously had on the paddler, who's Norby Nemchek. You might have seen him. He's going quite viral with a few of his Instagram stories lately about how to pick up balls and whatnot, and he had Paquito on as his first episode ever. So he sort of said to me, because we just spoke a few days ago, that he's giving up the podcast because it's just too much work. So props to us guys that we're still hanging in there after almost 2 years. But what I wanted to say is that I think why this might work a bit better for the Nano and LeBron, but obviously you have to finish the points in paddle, is that like Chingotto, the Nano picks up the half volleys, quite easily because he has really good hand skills, and you can like rush the net as soon as you have like a half volley. You just like, you know, try to hit a chiquita, or you try to place it a bit better. And obviously we all know about Dineno's lobs, that they're absolutely amazing. So I think you've spoken about it, that they're trying to do the same sort of formula as what Galan did with Chingotto. And obviously Chingotto is now named one, if not the best defensive players on the tour. But I think, and it's kind of funny to see that, like, okay, now LeBron was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it on the left side, and I'm gonna show you that I can smash well. But May, it's like, what I was thinking, I never actually thought about it. Do you guys think that LeBron is a little bit like a Djokovic character?
I think it's a great comparison, to be fair. I think he definitely is. He's almost a bit of a Ronaldo character as well. I think they're kind of the eternal bad guys, but through their ego and believing so much in themselves, and potentially sometimes showing that too much, they've got a lot of people who don't love them, but at the end of the day, that's probably led them to the top. I think that all that hate, maybe not hate, but all that having so many people disliking them and kind of wanting them to fail has pushed them even further. I mean, Ronaldo said it loads of times, and I think LeBron could be very much a perfect example. And yeah, Djokovic is very much the same as well. I've always been a massive fan since he was, well, ranked third, fourth in the world. I always thought he was going to reach the top. So I think in a lot of cases, being hated could push you to do even better.
It was great to have you guys. See you later. Joking. No, I'm as I said, you know, I'm a massive Nadal fan, and you know, I grew up watching.
So am I, Dennis.
There you go. There you go. Sorry, Hugo. It was great to have you. We're just thing on
guys. I'm a massive Nadal fan. It's just that I've had a lot of friends who have hated Djokovic, which I totally understand, particularly throughout the earlier years of his career. And I don't want to babble on about tennis, but he did gain this bad rep through his behavior. But I think towards the end of his career, he's like one of the players who's most humble when he loses and who has the kindest words now, like when you see him talk about Alcaraz and all the other players. So I think he's really turned around his rep. And all I was saying when I was younger is I always thought he was going to make the top and be one of the best. And he's probably the GOAT, to be totally honest. So
yeah, I think so. Look, I never liked the guy, and I'm not gonna like the guy ever. But it's down to the fact that, you know, it's he doesn't care how he wins, and that's what I always appreciated in Nadal. That, like, he never gives up. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't, like, you know, there's not like any sort of shady business. And with Djokovic, it's always a little bit like, you know, you can never really, yeah, you don't really know, and that's how it is. What do you think, Gonz?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and I think I mentioned this as well in the episode where Hugo and I talked about the sort of partnership. It's the fact that if LeBron can use this as sort of motivation and all this critiques, if he's that type of player where he uses it almost as fuel to essentially drive him, then I mean, he's going to be, he can do really well. And I think Hugo's like argument around the points, I think is a very important one, which at the beginning I didn't really consider, because when you look at it from that perspective, it is like a risk-free move. And I think now a lot of people maybe are not necessarily expecting much of the partnership as they were expecting from Paquito and LeBron. So there is, in a way, not as much pressure. So I think when you sort of put all those things together, it could, you know, lead the way for a successful partnership, and they could be a massive surprise. And in terms of like the styles, I mean, I think it's definitely true that LeBron and Dineno have a more similar style than Paquito and LeBron had. They both play a much faster game, and they both love to be at the net. So yeah, I mean, my honest opinion is I don't necessarily think it's going to work, but I mean, it wouldn't be like a massive shock if it did. And to be fair, I'll be the first one to be like, I apologize. I'm sorry. I was very wrong on you guys.
And I think, yeah, because I want to pick your your brain on Stupa and Yanguas as well, because he's the other guy who I've been chasing for ages to get on the pod, because everyone had Yanguas on the pod, but he's such a nice guy as well, but he's really controversial as well. So it's kind of funny that, like, you know, these two. But look, from the young generation, Yanguas might be the best if we try to name someone, because obviously we've got, you know, the Augsburger and what's his name? Help me out.
Libak.
Tino Libac.
Yeah, Tino Libac. And they are always there, and they're always getting, like, look, they had the hardest run in, and they were the biggest losers of Premier Padel versus the WPT, because they were, like, literally all of a sudden they were 120th in the world from literally being in the top 16 pairs. And it's like, whoa, okay, like there must have been something which they could have done with them, like at least give them a wild card or something for the main draws. But they had to play every tournament, and I think they're pretty much up there now, so they don't really have to play the qualifyings, but I'm not 100% sure anymore. But I think out of the young guys, and we talk about Pablo Cardona as well, and sort of I want to, guys, you, like, I want to pick your brain on what you think about the Yanguas Stupa pairing as well, because I think, like, as you say it today as well in the pod, that, like, Stupa needs to find something, because I feel like Stupa really went downhill this year. Like, the Super Pibes went downhill. Yeah, they had semifinals, don't get me wrong, but they weren't convincing at all. So, like, Hugo, what do you think about this partnership?
I mean, I think I'm quite excited about Yanguas and Stupa, because I think on paper they could fit well. I think the reason, or at least in my eyes, I think the reasons why Stupa and the reason why the Super PS haven't been doing that well is because they've changed their game style to be too aggressive when they're not that kind of player. Neither Dineno nor Stupa are players who traditionally have won points really quickly, have tried to go for winning points within the first 3-4 shots. That they're not Goyan Tapia, they're not Galan Lebron, they're different. And I actually personally think that they publicly said that they've been trying to adapt their game to this kind of modern game and try to win points faster because it's what they need. But realistically, when they've really challenged for the number one spot, it was going by their game, going by their nature, building this point slowly, playing that, getting that extra ball in for every point and making the opponents play that extra ball, which ends up in a mistake. So I think, talking about Stupa specifically, I think he's been taking too many risks and his decision-making hasn't been that good. I think he's been trying to go for probably too many smashes. His smash is one of the best on tour, but it hasn't been at the peak, at least of his expectation and what we've been accustomed to this season. So I almost feel like he has to tame it back a bit and maybe play not more defensively, but just maybe try to go for a slightly riskier play. And maybe teaming up with Yanguas is going to help him, because Yanguas can kind of help him with the burden of producing more winners, because he's a more aggressive player than Dineno. He's bigger. I mean, he's 190 something meters. So obviously he's a very tall player. His smash has improved a lot. And yeah, I'd say that my only concern regarding that partnership is the mental side. I think Yanguas gets heated up quite quickly. And we've seen those changeovers when he was playing with Garrido, even though they were doing really well. I think from a mental standpoint and from a personal standpoint, they were potentially points to improve. So I wonder how that works with Stupa, but maybe not having such a good relationship with Stupa and the fact that Stupa is one of the best players in the world could tame Yanguas down.
I'm going to throw a curveball to you, Gonz. Apart from Coelho, who do you think is the best under 22, 23 player is?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it is indeed a curveball. So I think this season, for example, Cardona has been probably a standout player. We do have the up-and-coming and very young, promising players such as, we talked about them, Leo Burger and Tino Libac, but I'd say potentially Cardona. Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely sensational, and now he's got a massive shot with Paquito, and we'll see how that goes. But since he's been with Nerone as a coach, and his partnership with Javi Ruiz, they I think they've done quite well. I mean, they won a couple of the UPT tournaments, which is kind of like I guess a tour around Spain, where still some of the like kind of, I would say, top 30 pairs play. Obviously, maybe not none of the top 10, but we know how good he is from a smashing perspective. I mean, he's one of the best smashers on tour. And yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with his progression this year, and I think he's going to continue to go in that trajectory.
I think they're gonna be amazing. I just have this feeling that, you know, no one really expects that. And you know what? I think like Garrido will come back as well, really strong. And I think Garrido isn't really mentioned that much. I don't know about Alex Ruiz. I have to be honest. I like he's nothing special. Like I know that that's his MO, but like yeah, I get it that like, you know, obviously there wasn't that many players who Garrido could choose from. But I don't know. Like I really like Garrido's play this year. I think like he really really stepped up his game, and I think yeah, and I know again I can just like cite you guys that like you said that you are really upset about this breakup, because that's almost as upsetting as if Koki and John would have said, you know what, guys, John will play with, you know, LeBron or something, and Koki will play with, you know, the Nano or whatever. So I think it's sort of along the same lines that like Yanguas and Garrido. But I think with Yanguas and Garrido in the last few tournaments, you could feel the tension a bit like over boiling. And I think that might have sort of caused this breakup. But that's about the new pairs, and I really want to get to know you guys as well, because as you can hear, I can talk paddle for days as well. So I like, you know, my listeners. I hope
so. Can we, Dennis? Don't worry about
yeah. So
that.
we will make this like a sort of a monthly appearance if you guys are into it. I will get better with moderating, trust me. But what I wanted to ask about is, what are you doing? What did you study in Exeter? What are you doing in your private life when you're not talking pedal? I know that you're still talking pedal when you're in your private life, but I'm gonna start with Gonz this time. So Gonz, what are you doing?
Yeah, so actually, well, I studied economics at Exeter, and then I went to work in finance in London. But I kind of very quickly realized that it really wasn't for me, and I then went kind of straight opposite and joined a startup. And after like 3 years at the startup, and kind of like 5 years in London, 8 years in the UK, I was very much looking forward to coming back to Spain. Hugo had already left me, so so yeah, and almost kind of most of our friends were here in Madrid, in Spain. And so actually, quite recently, I just changed job, and I've been now here for a month, and I work at a tech company called Fever, which is they kind of help with organizing like events and experiences. And yeah, I'm very happy to be back, and still playing a lot of paddle, because we're quite fortunate that we have a lot of courts, and it's very easy to book and everything. So yeah.
And cheap, and cheap. What about
Exactly,
you?
yeah.
And what about you, Hugo?
Yeah, pretty similar story to Gonz, to be fair, although obviously different industry. Studied at Exeter as well. I did 3 years. I read business management, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but my main passion in life, as you can imagine, has always been sport. So I started working for a major kind of sports marketing agency in London, looking at kind of helping rights holders, so teams events across a wide variety of sports, find brands to basically partner with and broker successful partnership, etc. So I worked there for that sports marketing agency for over 4 years. Then I moved over to Madrid because I moved in with my girlfriend in a flat in Madrid, etc. So found kind of more of a temporary role. I was doing kind of a sales job for a major online education technology company, making use of the fact that I'm bilingual. And however, about 6 months ago, I got back into the sports world because it's what I always wanted. and I started working for another major sports marketing agency in Madrid called You First. Well, specifically for an agency that's part of You First called Good Form, that are based in the UK, but they have a small team out in Madrid, and I'm part of that team. So yeah, very happy. Obviously, working in sports always been my objective. And funnily enough, You First, so the wider group that I work for, are getting involved in padel a lot, and they represent a number of top players. For example, Chingotto, Ari Sanchez, so a few big names. So looking to help them out on that division going forward.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I think they can utilize it. One thing was always bugging me. What's the language you're using when you're actually not doing the pedal pod between you?
Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, but we do throw some English words here and there.
Funnily enough, like with my wife, obviously we are both bilingual, and we live in the UK now, and we're both Hungarians, and we sort of, it's not a mix, because we try to be conscious about like not speaking English when we don't have to, and that's because like living in English is a totally different phenomenon as like obviously living back home and using English, but we do like 90% of our day is actually lived in English, and that's why whenever we can, we just sort of use a bit of a mixture of languages. So I do appreciate that. Obviously that's how it is. But how did you guys, like, you were friends from childhood, or how did that come along?
Gonz, do you want to give an intro to our loved relationship?
Yeah, so I mean, we're friends basically, I would say, since like our teens, so like kind of like 15, 16, sort of the age that we went to different schools. Kind of Hugo went to an English school, I went to an international school, but they were like very nearby. And so I'd say that we kind of like hanged around, kind of like when you start going out at sort of 15, 16, and you start going to parties and stuff like that, you start meeting a lot more people than, let's say, from your school. And actually, I think we got introduced to like a friend of a friend, and then we started playing a lot of football and basically started to hang out. Then went to university together, and then kind of like from there it took off really.
Yeah, I think the key was that we met in Madrid, and
right.
The first time we met was on a football pitch. So we got introduced by a friend, and we played a football match together. We got on well. We saw that we had a conversation after the match. I remember it quite well, actually, and it kind of felt like we were quite similar. And then we started going out together, just as in mutual friends, etc. And when we applied to university in the UK, we both ended up at Exeter. So that's when we got really close, and we lived together in Exeter for a year. And yeah, so I'd say, and obviously we also lived together in London when we started working in London. So yeah, pretty intense relationship, but I'd say everything positive.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, and I think most of the best friendships are formed on a football pitch. One of my best friends, he's an unbelievable person, like one of the best people I know. Like, I would cross anything for him. Like he's actually one of my best friends, and we met when we were like 14, 15 on a football pitch. So the only issue is that I'm a Gunner, so I'm an Arsenal fan, and yeah, we'll talk about football, don't worry. And he's a United fan, so that was. But what I can say, I became a Gunner because of Dennis Bergkamp. With my name, it was fairly easy to love the non-flying Dutchman, and he's a massive United fan because of Cantona. So these are the things which are justifiable. So I became a Gunner before the Invincibles, before Henri, and all these guys. So I was there through thick and thin, I think they call it. So what's is it all Real Madrid for both of you guys?
It is indeed. Both massive Real Madrid fans.
Boring.
Born and raised Real Madrid.
At least it was Getafe or something. So who's your all-time favorite player? Hugo?
Personally, I've always said it's David Beckham, just because, well, played for Real Madrid, and he's just been an icon. on
Yeah,
the football
larger than life.
pitch.
Larger than
And I played centre mid. I've always played centre mid. I mean, I have a number of players that are probably kind of my favorite players throughout. Modric has been one of them as well. Ronaldo growing up's obviously been a massive idol. But if I had to pick one, I'd just probably say Beckham. Just like a gentleman playing football. So I think it's pretty special.
Gonz.
For me, it was always Zidane. Just
Okay.
amazed by his flair and skills, his finesse. Yeah, it was. I remember actually, I got ticket. Well, my parents for my birthday gave me tickets for his last game at the Bernabeu against Villarreal, and if I'm not mistaken, he actually scored a hat trick, and it was epic. Yeah.
These are the moments where you actually sort of get to fall in love. Like I remember when I was growing up, Milan was AC Milan. That's how old I am. AC Milan was the best team around, and obviously we had like the Ruud Gullit, the Van Basten, and all those guys, and it was an amazing team. And I remember that like it was like 93, 94, that sort of time, and I'm gonna be a Milan fan. But then I've seen Bergkamp and how he was going about, and I'm a massive sports fan, so I never, like, tennis was my first love ever, and it's gonna be my first love until I die. But now there's a problem with padel. It's infectious, and I said it in the beginning as well, that it's just like too good to be true. Like it's and there's the problem with it, and obviously I'm fairly conscious of time, so I don't want you guys to stay on forever, although I wouldn't mind. But there's some listeners who your format is a little bit easier to digest with the 30 to 40 minutes. I'm usually now getting to an hour, so bless all the listeners who are staying this long. But it is what it is. So guys, how did the Padel Pod came along? So obviously, I know that you spoke about paddle. You just realized the niche for it, or I guess it must have been Hugo who went to Gonz and said, you know what, we should do this weekly. How did that came along?
To be fair, God, do you want to maybe explain it, or do you want me to go for it?
No, please, you go for it.
To be fair, I almost feel, and I was trying to think about it the other day, I almost feel like it was mutual. I mean, we kind of started talking about paddle because we've obviously been following it like two massive nerds for a number of years. And we just were like, hey, I've been thinking, I mean, I can't remember who said it first, but one of us said we could maybe record ourselves or do something related to paddle. And obviously we saw that the professional paddle was paddle was growing globally, professional paddle, and the interest was growing globally. Also the fact that the content produced was all in Spanish, which makes total sense given that Argentina and Spain had been the main countries, and so there was a massive lack for English content. And we saw an opportunity because we're both bilingual, luckily. I mean, I'm half English, half Spanish. My dad's English, my mum's Spanish, and Gonz could literally be half and half as well, although credit to him because he's actually 100% Spanish. So that's even more amazing. And yeah, I think it was almost like an agreement. One of us said, hey, one of the options would be doing a podcast. I think we also discussed the option of creating content on YouTube, like tutorials, but we kind of agreed that we weren't really good enough for that. And we were probably better at, we probably had more knowledge of professional paddle compared to the average, paddle fan. So we said, hey, should we do this? And I think the other, if it was me, then Gonz probably said, yeah, I've thought about that as well. And we said, yeah, let's go for it.
And yeah, I mean, look, what I can say to that and to reflect on what you said is that, like, it was a fairly straightforward thing for me. And I think you guys and me have the best name out of all the podcasts, but no, all jokes aside, I think even in Spanish, it was quite funny. I was, and it's a shame you couldn't make it. I don't know if you were planning to come to the Padel Summit in Malaga, and I spoke to a few guys, and they said that, like, you know what, not even Spanish speaking podcasts do the same sort of downloads as what I get, and I was quite surprised on that because, if a sport is that massive in a country as it is in Spain, like, I would assume there's podcasts where there's like tens of thousands of downloads, and somehow it's still, look, you guys love to talk about it. I love to talk about it. That's why we do it. It's really time consuming. It is a little bit more for me, but you were doing your research before every episode. You would still do it because you're interested in it, but you have to find the time to talk about it. You have to record it, then you have to publish it, then you have to obviously put out some sort of graphics about it, and yada yada yada. For me, it's a bit different because obviously I have to find the people to come on the pod. You have to organize, you have to do the same thing as what you guys are doing. And I think, you know, we are the pioneers, and we have to keep it up. Like you guys are doing an absolutely amazing job, and I always talked about it, and I'm always going to talk about it. So, you know, and I was so happy that you said yes to my question about coming on, and you guys are genuinely lovely at what you're doing, and you should keep it up. That's all I wanted to say about it. And to basically close the podcast, because there's more questions, but we'll find another time to actually get on it. But what I wanted to ask is that obviously every episode you talk about your paddle games, every episode. So that's more like a drinking game. Like, how was your paddle game? And then if you say it was good, you drink 2. If it wasn't that good, you drink 3 or whatever. Who's on the right? Who's on the left?
Gonz, you want to? I think what could be quite interesting, given that you've asked, is maybe Gonz could give a little description of what we are like as a pair. Because to be fair, we pretty much play together. I'd say definitely 80, if not 90% of the games I play with Gonz. So yeah, he's definitely my partner.
Yeah, we take the relationship on the court as well. And Dennis, just to give you a bit of insight, Hugo actually has our record. Like, he keeps tab of our record as a pair together. So yeah, just to let you know that's how it is. And maybe Hugo can give away what it is, because it's picked up like the last couple of months. But yeah, in terms of like who plays on the left and on the right, so Hugo's on the right, and we like to think that he's very much like Dineno. So he's like constructing the point. He's really good defensively, accurate, and really good lobs. And I'm on the left, kind of finishing the point, but I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like your typical lefty in terms of just being able to smash out like anything. I'd say I use a lot the Vibora is probably my best shot, and maybe the Rulo as well. So in that sense, maybe a bit less Stuba, but I kind of want to make myself believe that I'm more like Galan. I play with Galan's racket. So yeah, that's the partnership basically.
But that's a new racket though, right? You just started to play with that. What was the racket before that?
So the racket before that was actually Alex Ruiz's racket.
Okay, Adidas guy.
Yeah.
What about you, Hugo?
So actually, sorry, I think someone's knocking on the door. Sorry, one sec.
Yep. So Hugo, what racket are you using then?
Yeah, so I'm currently using Agustin Tapia's racket. So the 18K 22 version, the 2022 version, sorry. So actually what Gonz didn't mention is that before he used Alex Ruiz's racket, he had the same racket as I currently use, but 1 year, so the 2023 version. So, I mean, basically we were using the same racket for quite a long time, but Gonz has tried about 15 rackets in the last couple of months, and he's finally decided that he confessed to me that he's a Galan fanboy, so that explains his racket choice.
But you always talk about it that Coelho and Tapia are your favorite pair.
Yeah. I mean, basically, Tapia's my favorite player, so whoever he plays with will probably end up being my favorite pair. But I love the fact when they teamed up together, I was so excited to see how they were going to do. But they were so quick to reach the number 1 spot, and those epic battles that we've watched between them and Galan and Lebron are probably some of the best matches that I've ever watched. So yeah, I'd say. But again, just to reiterate, because Tapia's my favorite player, that's why it's that partnership. That's my favorite pair. There are other players that individually I wouldn't say like personally, as in not personality wise, but other players that I prefer compared to Coelho, just other players that I prefer to watch. Like, for example, watching LeBron is just, his ability is second to none. And for example, Yang Was as well. I really love watching it. He's got a lot of flair. So there's players that I'd favor above Coelho, but Tapia is just king for me.
Yeah, I can definitely see why, because he's Mozart. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like how he look, I think at the moment it's like we're spoiled because we've got Galan, who might be the best attacking player you've ever seen, and we've got Tapia, who might be the most complex player we've ever seen. Like, you know it a lot better, Hugo, than I do. Like, I have to say, I'm still a newbie. Like, these 3 years with padel is nothing. But like, I am trying to make up ground for it. So definitely. And what I wanted to say, Gonz, is that try the luck or look max hype, because I think Young Gus's racket, like I still have it in my bag, thanks to Specialist Sport in the UK, and I also got now John Suntz's racket. So that's what I tried today, and I absolutely loved it. So it wasn't down to the racket we lost, and my rating just went down from 5 to 4.91. So it's not good, but it is what it is. Guys, I cannot thank you enough. I would love to have you guys on whenever. So, open invitation, A, to Bristol, B, to hopefully you will say the same thing about Madrid, because I've never been to Madrid. But now it's a bit cheeky that I'm actually trying to get myself invited. So don't listen to me. But it was such an honor, B, a privilege, and C, like, I don't even remember when I had so much fun about talking about padel, and I talk about padel all the time. Have you heard that joke about how do you know that someone likes padel?
No, never.
They will tell you.
Yeah.
It's almost like when someone is vegan.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a really good one.
Guys, as I say, thank you very much for coming, and keep it up, because we definitely need the Padel Pod on all our playlists.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll jump in just to say goodbye. Thanks so much, Dennis. I've loved, and Gonz, I'm sure he has as well. But yeah, we've loved featuring in the Padel podcast. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're incredibly passionate, and I'm sure that you're going to continue to reap the rewards that you've been reaping so far. And yeah, definitely keen to jump back into one of these episodes soon, because there's so many other topics that we haven't touched on, and we probably talked about topics beyond padel. So we could even focus more on padel, which is what I'm sure our fans would love to hear. So yeah, other than that, thanks so much. And see you soon.
Yeah, Dennis, just to reiterate on Hugo's message, like, really appreciate the invitation. And you're also doing a great job with the Padel podcast. I think that your niche, like bringing in different personalities of the sport, it's amazing. Hugo and I focus on the professional side of things, and that's kind of like what we like on our market. But what you're doing as well is absolutely amazing, and we're kind of like following your journey as well. So thank you so much for bringing us on, and of course, like, please do come to Madrid. We'll have to play a match, and yeah, I'm sure we'll find some time to get another episode in and talk more about the sport we love.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.